Hi, and welcome back to my channel. In the previous video, I talked about why your game music needs FMOD. And in today's video, I'd like to show you how to get started by installing FMOD and then adding a timeline sheet. So let's start off by going to fmod.com. In order to download FMOD Studio, you need to create an account first. I already have an account, so I can go to the download page. And then you want to download FMOD Studio. And here you can choose which version you want to download and which operating system you're using. I have already downloaded FMOD Studio, so I will skip ahead to create our first project. But you can pause the video here while you're installing. So this is what it looks like when you opened up FMOD Studio. You can view some of the latest updates, and you also have access to some tutorials and manuals. But let's get started by creating a new project. So here we have a completely empty FMOD project. And if you go to the top left, you can see we have 3 tabs up here. We have the assets. This is where we're going to place all of our audio files. Then we have banks. And I won't dive too much into what banks are today. But banks are the files that package up your interactive audio so the game can actually use it. But yeah, don't worry too much about banks for now. Just know that they are how your work gets into the game. And then we have the events tab, where we'll be doing the main part of our work today. And an event is an interactive container where we place our audio and define how it behaves. And today we're creating a timeline-based event. To create an event, we're going to right-click in this area. And now we can choose either to do a new event or we can use some event presets. So today we'll be using the 2D timeline. But you can see we have the option of both the 2D and 3D timeline. And you can think of 2D audio as like a film score that is playing directly to the audience, where 3D audio is like a sound happening on screen, where its position matters. So let's say, for example, a horror game, where you might want to add some footsteps that creeps up behind the player. So 3D timelines you use to add that kind of spatial audio. But yeah, for today we use the 2D timeline. So here you can see we have added the timeline event, and that actually looks a little bit like a DAW. So we are in familiar territory here. And in today's demo, I want to show you how to change from one audio clip to the other, and specifically when the player is running out of time. So let's name the event running out of time. But first we need some audio we can actually play. So let's go to the Assets tab. And I prepared a couple of clips here. You can drag in. Okay, now we can start adding our audio to the timeline. And you can see we have the normal tempo version and the high tempo version. So let's get both of them in here. Alright, so we want to add some logic that tells FMOD to jump from the normal tempo to the high tempo version. And to do that, we need to do a little bit of setup. You can see above our audio track here, we have something called logic tracks. If you go to this area and then right click, we get a lot of options here. Let's start by adding a tempo marker. And the normal tempo version is in 165 BPM. And let's add another one for the high tempo. And that one is 185. Adding these tempo markers is technically not needed to make this logic. It's just nice that these bar marks here align with our audio correctly. Okay, and now we need to add the logic. And we need to utilize something called a parameter. And a parameter is a variable that controls how your audio behaves. And you can kind of think of a parameter as a slider or a knob in your DAW that the game has access to. So instead of just pressing play on a track, the game can actually change the intensity, the volume, the layers, or the transitions in real time by adjusting this parameter. So to get started working with parameters in this example, we're going to add something called a transition region. And a transition region is a point on the timeline that tells FMOD to jump to another section when certain conditions are met. And these conditions are using parameters. To add a transition region, we're going to right click on the logic tracks and choose transition region. Then if you left click and drag down, then we can get a bit more space. And then we want this region to cover the whole normal tempo clip, because as soon as our condition is met, we want to jump to the high tempo regardless of where we are on the normal tempo clip. And you can see when the transition region is selected, then this menu down here pops up. And here we can add our first condition. And we want to add a parameter condition. But we do not have any parameters defined yet, so let's make a new one. And there are basically three types of parameters. There's continuous, there's discrete, and then there's labeled. I will dive deeper into what those are in a separate video, but a quick explanation is that continuous are floating numbers, discrete are whole numbers, and then label are like specific values. For example, if you are doing audio implementation and the player is walking in snow or gravel or grass, for example, then you can adjust the audio accordingly. But we're gonna go with discrete because we're gonna make the running out of time based on seconds. And we're gonna make a range from 100, from 0 to 300 seconds. And then let's call this parameter time left. And press OK. And now you can see a condition has been added down here. And we can also access the time left up here at the top. And I just realized now that I forgot to set the initial value correctly. But that is really easy to fix. So we can go out here and you can right click on time left and then edit parameter. So I want the initial value to be 300 seconds. Press OK. Right, that looks better. Okay, so now that's taken care of. Let's update the condition. So we want to jump from normal tempo to high tempo when we reach 100 seconds or below. Right now the condition says that whenever we are between 0 and 300 seconds, then make the transition. So you can take this handle here and you can drag it down. So let's do 100. Or you can actually also just left click and then update the value like this. And then we need to set the destination. And to do that, we actually need to go up here again on the logic tracks and right click and then add a destination marker. And then let's name this one for high tempo. Set that right here. So the destination marker is what we can use to define where to jump when this condition is met. So we can go to markers and then high tempo. Okay, so let's see if it works. And actually I forgot to mention earlier that you can update the value up here by left clicking and holding down and then dragging down or up. And you can actually see down in the left corner when our condition is met, then it actually highlights. Let's see if it works. Gonna go down to 100. And there it is. So then it jumps immediately to the high tempo when we reach that condition. We can also do some quantization if you want to offset it by 1 bar, for example. Then you can see that when the condition is met, then FMOD waits until the end, or sorry, it waits until the start of the next bar to make the transition. Let's try that. So that is how a transition region can be used to jump between different sections of a track. And this is a simple but powerful use case of the timeline sheet. In the next video, I'd like to show you how to use the parameter sheet to add an alert sound when the player is low on health. If you're interested in learning more about that, then please subscribe to our channel and keep an eye out for that video. Alright, thank you so much. See you next time.